I think we've just gone live. Welcome to our first ever webinar, and it's going to run for about an hour. And I have a little brief outline of what we're going to be covering. You will be able to ask questions in the comment box. But for now, the first thing I want to do is give a brief introduction to what made me become a hypnotherapist. The simple answer is I had it myself. When I was in my mid-30s, I hit such a crisis in my life. I had relationship troubles, money troubles, absolutely everything was going wrong. And someone said to me, "Why don't you have hypnotherapy?" And I remember I looked at them and I said, "Well, what on earth is that going to do?" And I booked in with my own hypnotherapist, and we had 4 sessions together. And for me, it totally changed my life. So much so that I decided I wanted to go on and become a hypnotherapist myself. And what I could say, what hypnotherapy did for me, it didn't sort the whole of my life out, but it gave me an inner peace. So I still have all the things that happen in life. I was part of COVID. I still have difficulties at home, everything else. But somehow inside, I've got this inner peace. And I decided in my wisdom, as I do, that I wanted to do that for other people. So I then decided I wanted to train as a hypnotherapist, and I just mentioned to people, but it was before the internet. It was back in 2003. Well, there was the internet, but remember that dial-up when it goes click, 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 click. It was then. I could not. You ask Google something, and you got God knows what up in front of you. And I was introduced to the Institute of Natural Therapies. Roger Sleet ran it at the time, and I booked on the training course. It was 15 weeks training, and basically all I did was copy a flip chart for 15 days. No one saw me hypnotize anybody. The trainer did do a few sessions with us all. There was 5 of us in our home. But what I didn't realize back then, we were given really good scripts. So where I had no money, I had a coffee shop at the time called the Magic Bean. I had to make it work. So we built a room in the corner of our coffee shop, and we called it Room 101. And I put a little sign up in the window, and it was like I had client after client after client. And I always remember the day I got my diploma back in 2004. I was so proud of it. And my business partner, Steph, I said, "Look, what I've got my diploma." And I always remember what she said, "About bloody time too." She said, "It's like a drop-in centre here. Now they can start paying you for dealing with all their problems," which really made me laugh. So what do you mean? She said, "Well, they all come running up to well, let Lorraine help, Lorraine help." So I set up this little room, and I will always remember my very first client. He was a male, and I talked to him for 2 hours. I was too scared to hypnotise him. But because I'd invested all this money, I had to do it. So literally, I just kept practicing and practicing and practicing, and I had successes, I had failures, and everything else. And then I thought, I don't even know if I'm doing this right. So I booked on another training course in Scarborough with Wilf Proudfoot, and I went all the way up to Scarborough, and I did the 3-week training course with him. I did the clinical hypnosis, the NLP, and the hypnotherapy, and all that was practical. And then over the years, I started amalgamating both the training I had with Wilf Proudfoot and the training I had with the Institute of Natural Therapies. And I started amalgamating them and just working with clients, just trying this and trying that and trying this and trying that. And after 3 years, the Institute of Natural Therapies contacted me and asked me if I'd like to be a trainer for them. So off I went as a trainer, driving day after day all the way to Dorset, from Portsmouth to Dorset, Portsmouth, learning this training course. Now, for those of you that know me, um, I don't tend to follow rules. I tend to do things my way. Well, when you're teaching for another school, you have to follow what they teach, which is fair enough. I must admit, if I ever had anyone teach the HSOH formula, one of my requirements is they're prepared to teach what I teach. So I'm teaching hypnotherapy stuff that I didn't do, which made it quite difficult for me. And eventually, I decided to write my own course because I'm like that. And basically, where I'd been working for all these years, I'd come up with this formula. Now the biggest thing that I spent most of my years learning is the IMR, which is the ID motor responses, where you choose a finger. Because on the training course, we had a day on it, and I always remember the teacher said, "Oh, there's this technique called IMR, ID motor response. It bypasses the conscious mind, and it's a direct link to the subconscious mind, but it doesn't really work." And I'm sat in class thinking, imagine having a technique that bypasses us conscious mind, going straight to the subconscious mind. That's amazing. So I practiced the IMR over and over and over again. And yes, I had lots of failures, but I also had lots of successes. And the more I practiced it, the better I became. And it actually is what I hang the whole of my therapy on. So I'm writing this training course for a fully accredited diploma for the HSOH, and it hangs very much on the IMR, the ID motor response. And the ID motor response is amazing. It is one of the most amazing techniques. And what I don't get is why other training schools don't teach it. However, it takes practice, and you're not going to get 100% success rate. So I wrote this formula that I work, and I work with clients, and it's 5 sessions, and I hang my whole therapy on these 5 sessions. And the first session is all about gathering information. The second session is all dealing with causes, habits. The third session is building inner belief. Because the truth is, when you work with people, it doesn't matter what the clients present in front of us. We're only working with one thing, and that's inner self-worth. If you feel good inside, you can deal with whatever's going on outside. And I spent years and years developing this formula, and it really is, to me, mind-blowing. No longer are you, if you're a hypnotherapist, trying to make your clients fit your therapy. So many training courses have this. They teach you loads of techniques, but they don't tell you how to put them together. Well, when you use the ID motor response, you're literally bypassing the conscious mind, and you're asking the subconscious mind directly, do we need to use regression? Do we need to build inner confidence? Do we need to deal with habits? So you're not guessing what is going on with your client. And I'm a great believer that clients aren't stupid. If they feel anxious about something, the logical part of them knows full well there's no reason for it. But the subconscious mind thinks, well, actually, there, we've learnt this behavior. We're going to keep producing this anxiety, or whatever it is that you're working with. So the formula, the HSOH formula, is finding out whether a client needs to regress or not, if you need to do NLP techniques or not, if clinical hypnosis will work or not. That, for example, direct and indirect suggestion, which does work with people. Now, there's always great disputes about regression. Don't regress, it's dangerous. Well, from my experience, and I've only been doing it now about 17 years, you don't uncover stuff that hasn't actually happened. And very often in forums, I keep saying that I keep hearing people say, oh, they're false memories, people don't remember stuff. Well, from my experience, we're actually working in a therapy room. People do. Our subconscious mind, from the moment we're born, it records. It records is it a true recording? No, not necessarily. But our subconscious mind records absolutely everything that happened. And some of the things clients have said to me with their regression, it absolutely is mind blowing. And a few months ago, I was working with this lady, I think we were working with weight loss and using the ID motor response. We had to go back to when she was 2 years old, which, believe it or not, that's when we learn a lot of our habits when we're 2 years old. And when she went back to two, and this is the difference with the ID motor response. When you're doing timeline regression or you're doing analysis or you're doing rapid transformation, RTT, whatever it's called, you bounce people back. So you are actually traumatizing, going from one event to the next event to the next event until you eventually get to what they call the initiating event. When you use the ID motor response, you're not regressing the client. You're counting through the ages of their life. And as you're counting through it, you're finding out if any events have caused them to have anxiety or whatever it is you're working with. And so you haven't had to regress them. You've got all the ages written down, exact. And then you say, subconscious mind, do we need to look at the cause? So when you're doing regression using the ID motor response, as opposed to traumatizing people back through every single event of their blooming life, you're going straight to the cause, no messing about. And the great thing is, when you're an adult, when you look at something that happened to you when 2 or 3 years old, it is not as, when you see it through adult eyes, you have a better understanding of it. Well, this lady that we went back to when she was 2, I said, where are you? And they always say, don't know, because that's another thing with people. We always like to think our problems are really complex, when most of the time our problem is quite simple. Our lives are complex, but where we learnt to react the way we do, it was quite a simple event that triggered this reaction. So where are you? Don't know. And through using open questions, it turns out that she was in a cupboard and it was dark and she was scared. How is this connected to you? And I'm sure it was eating, to you eating. Well, when I'm scared, I overeat. So, we did inner child and gestalt. And I remember when this lady came up and she said, well, I don't remember being in a cupboard. She said, do you think I've made it up? I said, well, and the truth is, it doesn't matter if the client has made it up or not. How do I know she's made it up? So I said, well, I don't know, but how did you feel? She said, well, I felt really scared. And I said, so as long as it deals with your overeating, what does it matter? So anyway, she went away. And what I didn't know was she had a sister who was 5 years older than her. So when my client was 2, she was like 7. And she was meeting her sister for lunch after our appointment. So when she came back a week later, she said, I said to my sister, did mum, as we always assume, mum used to lock us in a cupboard when I was little? And my sister said, no. She said, but when you were little, whenever you were scared or upset, you used to run and hide in the cupboard. Don't you remember? And she didn't consciously, but she did subconsciously. This is why, and I can give example after example after example when people have actually checked out something. For example, when I was training up in Scarborough with Wilf Proudfoot, it was great fun. Honestly, that was so much fun because it was all practical. And we did a regression to the womb. That is mind-blowing. So I was regressed to the womb, and it wasn't for a cause of anything, but I was just regressed there. And as I was there, I felt that I jammed myself in the corner of my mum's leg because I didn't like moving. That's what I thought. And I really stuck myself in the corner. I didn't like moving. I had no record because I'm in the room. How am I going to remember jamming myself in the corner? Well, my mum, bless her little soul, I don't know why, but she always thought I was a bit of a weirdo. So I couldn't really ask her questions. And I remember we were back, and she was alive then after when I had. And I said to her, Mum, you know when you were pregnant with me, and she, oh yes, Lorraine, what? And I knew she's thinking, what on earth is she going to ask me now? And I just said to her, because I didn't dare tell her I'd been regressed to the womb because she'd think I was a raving nutter. So I said to her, when you were pregnant with me, yes. I said, did I not like moving? And my mum, she went, oh, she said, Lorraine, it was awful. I hated you moving. And she said, and in the end, you jammed yourself in the corner of my leg. So I did not consciously know that, but my subconscious mind knew that. And we weren't working when we were up in Scarborough. We weren't working on techniques, or we weren't working on problems all the time. But this was just a demo on how to regress to the womb. Of course, I came back full of it. And my poor long-suffering daughter, I wanted to practice regret. I said, Rach, can I regress you to the? And she was, oh, my mum's a raving nut. So I actually did it with her, and it's great because I know what it's like to carry her, so because I was the mum this time. And when you do the regressing in the room, you get them to look at their hands and their feet, and you get them to get hold of the umbilical cord. Well, when you come out and you're born, you say, I want you to look and see your mum's face. And when I counted Rachel back up out of hypnosis after regressing out of the room, and I said, what was the umbilical cord like? She said, oh, it was like squishing a chip. And I said, did you see me when you were born? And she said, yeah. I said, how did I look? She went, knackered. And the truth was, I was 24 hours. I didn't know about hypnotherapy, hypnobirth. And if I had, I would have, trust me, I would have had a session with a hypnotherapist. I was 24 hours in labor with her. Oh, she was a pain. She still is a pain. But I forgot I was absolutely shattered after giving birth. So, regardless of what people are saying about regression, from my actual experience, people are going back to things that consciously they don't remember, but their subconscious really does remember. So why regress when you're working with clients? Because, NLP and a lot of other therapists say, and I totally agree, the best thing about the past is it's in the past. The best thing about now is it's now, and we've got all the future in front of us. So why use regression? Well, if you don't actually deal with cause, yes, we have choices, and we can, some hypnotherapists are absolutely amazing. In 2 minutes flat, they can get rid of a phobia for life. A phobia that people have had for hundreds and hundreds of years. Actually, it's not hundreds of years. We don't live hundreds of years. But people can get a phobia, which you can. I've had clients walk into my therapy room. By the way, my sessions aren't 2 minutes. One of the things I absolutely love is people. I love it. I love spending time with people. My sessions are an hour and a half because I like to find out where they're at in their life, what they want to achieve in life. I love doing relaxation. What is it? This stage hypnosis. They call it relaxotherapy. I love it. How often do we take an hour and a half out of our lives to relax? There's loads of those stage hypnotist people that do everything in nanoseconds, and you're all fixed, go away, you've done for the rest of your life. That's great. But that doesn't suit my personality. I really enjoy working at a steady pace, and I love finding out about people. I love taking time. I love having people to relax. So when people come along, I explain all what hypnosis is, and I don't do things in 2 minutes flat. And yes, you can get rid of fears and phobias in 2 minutes. When you hear hypnotists saying that, what they mean is the technique they used was about 2 or 3 minutes long. Well, actually, the fast phobia, rapid rewind, whatever you want to call it, it is actually about 2 minutes long. And a client can get up and off they go. They've got rid of the fear totally. Months later down the line, the fear's still gone. And then something may happen and bang, it's back again. It may not. So if you use the ID motor response, and I unfortunately, I have to do fears and phobias in one session because it's fashionable to do it in one session. I'd like to put them through the whole formula, but I don't. So, but I do the one session, but I still do the count to find out if we look at causes. So if they ever do come back for a second session, I actually deal with the cause. Because if you actually deal with that cause, it's not going to come back. All the time doing techniques and putting on a brave face with everything and finding everything is great. It's absolutely fantastic. It's like putting a plaster on something, but that plaster can get ripped off. Now imagine if you've dealt with the cause and the plaster gets ripped off, well, there's nothing underneath it because you've dealt with it. So to me, regression is an absolutely amazing technique that as a hypnotherapist you need to use, not every single client needs to regress, and they don't. But if you use the ID motor response, the subconscious mind tells you if they do or if they don't use regression. So I'm very, very for regression. I'm very for the ID motor response, and I wrote the HSOH formula out, and we train it as a fully accredited diploma at the HSOH School of Hypnotherapy. But after I'd written it, because then I had the problem, because I don't work like other hypnotherapists work, because I've come up with my own technique. Loads of, you've got lots of hypnotherapists that have got all their own techniques, but it's not it's not training people from scratch. It's training people to either work with anxiety in that area or pain control or everything else. But the formula that I teach, it trains you to work with everything: weight loss, smoking, anxiety, confidence, healing, pain. It trains you to work with everything. So when I'd written out the course, because it's how I work, there weren't any books on it. So I then had to go on. Oh, I just got one here that I prepared earlier. I had to go on and write right in front of my face. I had to write my own book. And can you believe it? The title, How to Be a Hypnotherapist. When I asked if that title was available, I thought, why hasn't anyone used that before? And this book, it actually is a textbook that covers everything. This is one of the first published. If you look, you can see all my alterations. Oh, do you know, I got so fed up of reading this book. It's boring. Yeah, just read it so many times. I never ever want to read this book again in my life. So my PA's over there. She's just put her hands over her face. Shelley, I've read this thousands of times. I wrote it. So it actually tells you what it says: how to be a hypnotherapist. It is how I work. It's how I teach. It's our fully accredited diplomas course. It's got lots of little stories of people that I worked with, and some of them I still remember. And just scanning through this, there was one lady in my very early days, and this story is in my book. So it's a years old story. And it was just amazing. I learned so much from this client because I didn't have trainers to back me up. Every time I hit a problem, I had to sort it out myself. And I was working with this lady, and what she came to me for, she was frightened of being on her own. So much so that she would stay in relationships where she was being physically abused. She just had this real fear of being on her own. And at the early stages, was making up my little formula. So we'd done the first session, and I counted through all her ages. I never, ever, ever regress people on their first session. So I'd counted her through her ages, and we had to go back to when she was, I think it was 9 months old. So she arrives for the second session, and I never tell clients I'm going to regress, because for some reason people hear the word regression and think I'm going to dig up some deep, dark secret. I'm going to take you to a past life. It's not at all like that. So I have this little spiel that I say to people. I say, look, last time your subconscious said we need to look at things, you're going to be talking to me under hypnosis, and you're going to hear me say, I count from 1 to 7, and I want you to go to a pleasant place. 7. When I say 7, actually, she was the one that maybe when you say 7, I want to know what you're thinking. And then on the next count, I'm going to say 7. I want you to go to the event you need to see. Most intelligent people realize I'm going to regress them, but I don't say the word regress. So this lady, I'd explained it to her and took her into hypnosis, got the IMR. Yes, we need to look at cause. And you always install a safe place. So I counted to 7. And I wanted to go to a pleasant place. And I said, where are you? And she said, nowhere. And I went, okay. So I counted her to a happy event. And I said, where are you? She said, I can't remember any happy events. So I thought, right, what do I do now? I thought, oh, I know. I'll steer her to a beach. So I said to her, I want you to think of a beach. And she did. And then I used that as the quickly sleep thing. And then when I counted her to the event, she had to go back to when she was 9 months old. I said, "Where are you?" Unfortunately, it was a beach. And what had happened when she was 9 months old it was Southsea Beach. Now, this is the great thing as a hypnotherapist. I don't need to know people's details. So in my head, the beach is empty and there's only her and her mum on the beach. And by the way, Southsea's a stony beach. So her mum's sat her down on the stones. I assumed on a picnic blanket, but that's me making that bit up. And she stepped away to take a photograph of her. I think in that nanosecond, that little 9-month-old baby thought she'd been abandoned and went into a sheer panic. So with it, I do inner child and gestalt, and then counted her up out of hypnosis. And I always remember what this lady said, and she was about 33 when she came to see me, and she went, "Oh my God." She said, "You know that photograph?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "I have carried that with me for 33 years. I have got the most miserable face in the world, and the clothes I've got on, I absolutely hated." She said, "I'm going home and I'm going to tear it all up." So she then, that's why she had a fear of because she thought her mum had abandoned her as a 9-month-old baby. Her mum didn't, by the way. Her mum just took a photograph. So under the regression, she could see that. So then from then on, she didn't have a fear of being left on her own. So regression to me is absolutely paramount of dealing with a cause. You could have worked with that lady and got her to feel confident, good about herself, and maybe for years she'd have been fine. And then something could have happened when she felt abandoned. So being trained to deal with causes, I think, is really, really important. So the HSOH, when we teach our fully accredited diploma, we equip you fully. We teach you how to do the first session, how to do a second session, and subsequent sessions. And so you have a whole structure that you can work to, and it's all written down for you. And a lot of I remember there's this really interesting forum that I'm in, and they and it's really nice. It's a really nice forum, and they discuss things, and how bad scripts are, and trainers are really lazy if they hand out scripts. Well, I'll be honest with you, if I turned up to a training course and they just talked to me and just taught me a few techniques, because to become a fully accredited hypnotherapist, it is literally 16 days training. Well, in 16 days, I honestly don't think I would remember it all if the trainers were that lazy that they didn't write it down to give it to me in writing. So, on our diploma, you are given the full we don't expect you to have be a great memory, photographic memory, to be script free. That comes with years and years practice. To me, when I see people saying trainers are lazy if they hand out scripts, I think actually trainers are lazy if they can't be bothered to write down what it is that they teach, because that's what we do. The trainers that take the time to write the scripts out and to write the formula out. Every training that I run, I always have a manual accompanying, and it's all written there. So, even if, life kicks in and you decide that there's going to be a COVID lockdown for 3 months and you can't work, and then suddenly you've got to go back and work again, it's all written for you. We all learn differently. Some of us learn by reading, some of us learn by doing, some of us learn by watching. When with the HSOH, we cover it's called a modality. We cover all of that model. So if you're the type of person that likes to have it written in front of you, it is written in front of you. If you're like these really clever hypnotists that can watch people do in nanoseconds, you can do that too. And if you're like me, I'm a doer. I like to do it. I'm always first in, whenever I'm learning anything, I'll volunteer, because I really want to have a go at doing. So when we teach at the HSOH, our mornings are all the theory. I'm sorry, you sit and you listen to me talk, and I add in all my stories. One of the great things I think it's great, is when you're working with me, my stories are always current. I don't tell the same, although there are certain ones that stick in my mind, but my stories are always current because I do work full time as a hypnotherapist. I absolutely love working full time as a hypnotherapist. There's this lady, beautiful she is, really tall. She's about 10 foot tall, and she's in her early 30s. And unfortunately, during the lockdown, she had her first ever baby. Let's say she could have another one. Hopefully she will. And because of lockdown, no one was allowed to visit. She was taken into the hospital, and it wasn't the easiest of births, and she was kept into hospital for 5 days, and she really developed really bad anxiety. She's not an anxious person. First time in her life. Of course, we didn't need to do regression. I asked the IMR, and it was all to do. We did some work. And in 2 sessions, it was lovely. I saw her the other day when she arrived. I said, "Oh, I said, you look like a different person." She said, "I'm fine." Imagine getting paid to do that for people. It's why I love seeing clients. I love seeing them get well. I love seeing them achieve their goals that they want. It is, for me, it's one of the best jobs in the world. Teaching is quite good fun as well. Exhausting, and there are some of my delegates at times I think that, oh my God, what is it they don't get? But somehow we get through it. And the fully accredited diploma course, usually about week 9 or 10, and I am looking at my PA now, because she was one of them. Week 9 or 10, they collar me out in the kitchen. Lorraine, I don't think I can do this, because apparently I'm quite a strict teacher. I'm not full of all positivity. I will tell you what he's doing wrong. And I persuaded her to not give up, because when you're doing the training, honestly, it's so intense, and you think how your head wants to explode. First day I'm really nice, but then I get worse and worse as the week goes on. And then by day 9 or 10, there's always someone that says, "I can't do it." And I said, "Just hold on. And then suddenly the penny drops. And once it drops, it is so simple to follow. But bearing in mind, I'm teaching people from scratch. And because I'm not a lazy teacher, everything's written down for you. You have scripts, you have books, you have everything to refer to. You will see me doing demos. And then the other thing I do, I make you work in front of me. I watch you working with each other. We only do really small groups, 4 people. And the reason I do 4 people is because I absolutely want anyone that trains with us to go out and become a hypnotherapist. Because you're being paid to tell people how brilliant they are, because that's basically what we do for a job. We tell people how brilliant they are, and people are brilliant. So I've got my little list here. I'm going to have to stop and have a look. I've told you why I became a hypnotherapist. Oh, look at this. We are now offering live online training. How did that come about? That came about because of COVID, and I had a tantrum. The world got shut down. Don't like computers. Do not want to go online. And as you can see, look, I jump about all the time. Me sat here now in this chair is like torture. It feels like I'm stuck to the chair when really I want to get up and move about. But my business had shut down, and like a lot of us, we learnt to go online. And I was in the middle of teaching 2 diplomas at the time. We shut down, and I said to them, both the groups, look, we can take it online like this, and I will cover all the theory. And then as soon as we're allowed back in the classroom, we can go in and just do days of practical to make up the training, which is what we did. And the other thing, one of the self-regulating bodies that run training courses, they said, would I take training online? So I said yes, and that is weird. That is weird. You sit there, and I know that you can see me, but I can't see you. But when you're doing live on training, you've got all these little faces that come up on the screen, and you're teaching, and you can't tell if they're enjoying it. Whereas in the classroom, I can pick up on energies, and I could, because I also think I'm quite funny and I like to crack little jokes. When I've got all these little faces all in front of me, I'm thinking, well, have they gone asleep? Is anything happening? But as I started doing it, it was starting to be good fun. And the first live online training I did was the hypnogastric band. If you do train with me, one of the things you'll get to learn is I love hypnotizing people and I love doing practical. And I'm also quite, if I get stuff wrong, I get stuff wrong. I do get stuff wrong all the time. So we've got this first day of training. One of the things I really like is when I have the break, no one can follow me. So I can actually, when I'm teaching for a whole day, I actually get a break without anyone coming up. Lorraine, can I ask you about this? And really, I want to say no, but you can't. But when you're live online, I can. I can wander off, go and have my coffee, sit in the garden. And I was sat there and I was teaching the hypnogastric band system live, like just like, oh no, but the difference being I could see them all watching me. And I'm sat in the garden and I thought, I love fitting the gastric band. I thought, bugger it, I'm going to. So after lunch, I made one of them volunteer and I did a live session online. And the great thing was it also showed the delegates how you work online with clients, because that's, I took my hypnotherapy clients online as well. Again, I didn't want to. I'd had a tantrum. I just shut my business down. I thought, I'm not doing this. Childish that I can be sometimes. And I had a phone call from a nurse that was working at our local hospital, and she'd been one of my previous clients, and she said, Lorraine, you've got to help me. She said, you've got to scrape me off the ceiling. I am absolutely in a right old state, and I need to see you. And I said to her, my office is shut down. And she said, well, can't we do it online? And I am quite softy. I said, look, I'll try it. I will try it online. Now, the difference with me, when I work with people, just like when I teach live online, I always want to do my best. And I don't want to do, I saw on our forum some of the trainers saying to people, don't do inner child, don't do gestalt, don't do this, don't literally just read a script. Well, I'm really sorry, I couldn't take money for that. So I thought I've got to do it online as if they're in my therapy room. So anyway, this nurse, we set up a time. I went in Google Meets and we Googled each other, and I got her online like we are now. And she explained what was going on. And it was just, she had so much anxiety with, basically because the hospital's empty and she was doing 12-hour shifts and it was just a lot of anxiety. And as we all know, it wasn't the best time of the year. So I wanted to do the IMR. So I literally got her to set her camera up so I could see her fingers, so we could work like that. Wow. When we'd finished the session, I looked at her, I went, oh my God. I said, you look amazing. And I always remember what she said. I'll call her Jane. That wasn't her name. I said, Jane, you look amazing. She said, Lorraine, I absolutely love coming into your office. I love having that time out to relax. She said, but I've decided I prefer it online. She said, because you can clear off now and I can snuggle into bed and sleep until I need to go to work. And it worked. So, I do now see clients online. My first choice is still in my therapy room. And I've seen people say, well, because you're picking up on energies, feelings, and everything else. Well, if I'm really honest, when people are in hypnosis and their eyes are closed, you haven't got a clue even when they're in my room, I cannot tell what's going on in their head unless I see a few tears or I see them breathing heavy, but I can see that online. So actually, it is, surprisingly enough, it's the same online as it is face to face. But I just like having people in the room. It's just my preference, but it really does work. So I'm happy doing both. So I work online now. I work in my therapy room now, and the live online training, we're trialing it this year. If you go on to the website www.hsoh.co.uk, you go on there and you see the live online training. We're trialing those workshops, and it is exactly the same as being in the, well, it's not exactly the same as being, it's almost the same as being in the classroom, because we do all the theory and you download your manual, exactly the same as, saves me on printing costs, by the way. So I don't have to print your manuals. So you download your manuals. We do all the training exactly the same, and I do demos as well. And then afterwards, the bonus that you get that you don't get with classroom training is we give you access to our online courses, which they aren't online, they're all pre-recorded, much more professional than just listening to me talk. But actually, you do listen to me talk. You get access to them for 90 days after the live online training, where you can watch the demos, you can watch me go through the manual over and over again, and you have 90 days to revisit the training. Whereas when you're in the classroom, you only get the day classroom. But you also, when you're in the classroom, you actually get to meet me, which is much more fun than just watching me on a screen, in my opinion. So the live online training is something we're offering now. We're also we are going back to doing CPD in the classroom. The other advantage with live online training is you can do it from the comfort of your own home. You don't have to travel. You can train with therapists up there or down here or across to the east or the west, even in another country, as long as you speak the language. It's like, to me, what COVID has done is absolutely brought online to the forefront. We always wanted to take a lot of our courses online, which is why we were very lucky, because the actual online site, which isn't live training, it's totally different. The online courses, which that website is, it's a bit of a mouthful, www.hsohonlinetraining.com. You can access it from HSOH, which is www.hsoh.co.uk. Although I've heard now you don't need to put www in front of anything. That training is available all the time, and we've gone into a filming studio. Funny enough, we were in there this week. We're filming some new online training courses. You get face to camera. Then you have Shelley that I'm doing demos on. Then you have frequently questions and answers. I think I answer the questions that I'm often asked in the classroom. And you have access to watch these videos over and over and over again. And the way we've done them, it's not like other online training. I am not mic'd in a classroom full of people. I'm actually sat in a filming studio, face to camera. There is a green screen behind me, but it's not a green screen when you see it. Do you know you can't wear green in front of a green screen? I honestly said, it's not going to be a problem, Clive. That was the filming guy, because I haven't got any green clothes. Do you know, I've got almost a wardrobe full of green clothes. So in front of a green screen, so it's the filming quality is right. It's face to camera. I go through all the manuals one by one, and it's a great way to learn online in your own time, the comfort of your own home. And you can do bits of our courses. You've got the IMR, the ID motor response with regression, inner child gestalt. And the one thing I do not teach on my diploma course, because when we do the HSOH diploma course, and we've got a few of them coming up, we've got two, not a few, is parts therapy. It's the thing I don't teach, and I don't teach the hypnogastric band on the diploma course. I do run classroom CPD for both of those, and there is online training for both of those. So why train the HSOH? I think, well, I know that we're the best. But the thing that we do, which I think is very different to other training schools, is we teach you from scratch. we give you an absolute formula to follow from start to finish. We don't at the end of it then say, oh, you have to go off a train to learn this or train to do that. The diploma course, you can work with everything. And not only do we have that formula that we work to, we also support you. We absolutely support you every way. I support you by emails. We have our little school, the HSOH school membership, where you can come along quarterly, and we have our meetings, and we add to the training. We have a closed Facebook group because no other hypnotherapists work the way we do. So when you go into these other forums, they come up with all these different ideas, and you think, what on earth are they talking about? Well, it's because they absolutely love acronyms. If you do get this book on how to be a hypnotherapist, one of the things you'll notice if you start reading it is I write it simply because actually being a hypnotherapist is very simple, and I don't use all these blooming acronyms and these funny and these modalities, submodalities, and they drive me insane. It's simple. People want to feel good. It's not difficult. It's quite easy. So we have our quarterly meetings. We have a closed Facebook group, and the other thing, it's small classes. So we do theory in the morning. We break for lunch. We do practical in the afternoon, and you are fully equipped to work with absolutely everything. You don't have to go off and train extra bits with me, or this with me and that with me. And what I always do say to my hypnotherapists when they've done the diploma, just practice it for a year and then go off with other trainers and do bits with them and learn this. And you can add to your skill set, and you can walk into a classroom and you know what the teachers are talking about because you know what you're doing. So to me, and to my knowledge, we are just about the only school that actually teaches you how to be a hypnotherapist. A lot of the other schools, they teach you techniques, they teach you ideas, they spend hours and hours on an intake form. Well, I don't. When a client arrives, if they really want to spend hours talking about their problem, then they should go and see a counsellor. So when you come and see a hypnotherapist, the way I teach is, what do you want? What's wrong with you. Everyone knows what's wrong with them. How do you want to be? And there's a real skill in getting people to actually focus on what they want as opposed to what they don't want. And it's quite refreshing. And the great thing about hypnotherapy, you don't have to analyze people. You don't have to work out what's wrong with them. You just literally say, okay, what is it that you want? Right, close your eyes and just relax. It's just a brilliant career, and it's just so good to talk to people, help people to get well. And the other thing with the HSOH, we totally support you after the courses. Now, we have got a couple of fully accredited diplomas coming up, and I've got the dates here. We've got Wednesdays coming up, and the start date is 16th of September, and it's 1 day a week on Wednesdays. You will get all the training dates because there are breaks for holidays and Christmas, and it runs until Wednesday the 3rd of February 2021. With the diploma, it's fully accredited by the GHR, which is accredited by the General Hypnotherapy Standards Council, the National Hypnotherapy Association, the National Hypnotherapy Society. You can also join the CNHC. So it is totally fully accredited, and it's a diploma, not a certificate. There is, of course, home study as well. There's coursework book, which is basically all the questions that we cover. Basically the course workbook checks that you've attended the class and you know what hypnosis is, you know how to deal with causes, you know what NLP is. And then there's the practical case study book, which means you have to do practical. So you have a couple of friends that you work on out of class, and you fill that book in. You also need to do a recording that you send in to us as well, a recording with an induction, a relaxation, and a count up, and of course, an exam. But let me tell you something. I wrote the exam, so it is easy. One of the things I've noticed as a hypnotherapist is how terrified people get of taking an exam, which I find odd, because an exam to me isn't about you. An exam to me lets you know if I'm a rubbish teacher, because I've taught you how to do it. So you should know the answer to the question. So once you've done all of that, you then get a fully accredited diploma, and you can set up practice. Now, on the online certification course, that is our diploma, but you can only get a certificate for it because you're not attending a classroom. You have a year's access, and you have all the manuals to download, you have the scripts to download, you have all the tutorials, the demos. It is basically our diploma, but it classed as a certificate because you haven't done classroom training. Now, in the UK, to become a hypnotherapist, we only have self-regulating bodies. So the fact is, in the UK, you could pick up my book. God, I keep talking about my book. Read it, set up practice, and call yourself a hypnotherapist. You know, we have one law in the UK. You must be insured. Now, we have lots of self-governing bodies, and as I mentioned earlier, the three that I've associated the HSOH with, what's great with them is they help, you know, they keep up to date with the news, and it gives you a little tick on your box that you've done an accredited course and not just online. Also, with doing the fully accredited, honestly, you have full backup with me. But if you do the certification online, I also offer supervision. So you can actually get one-on-one online supervision at an hourly rate if you get stuck with anything or you want help, advice on insurance, how to set up business, because that's one of the things. It's so easy to train. It's so easy to be a hypnotherapist. The hardest thing is to actually get clients. I'm really lucky because clients find me easily. And it's, you know, I've been doing the job 17 years. It's something that I found easy was to attract clients in. Part of it is because of the formula I've developed. And I'm very fortunate that I have an awful lot of referrals. So you've got the certification online, which isn't accredited. You have the classroom training where you get to meet me. And we've got the one starting on the Wednesdays, 16th of September. It runs through to the 3rd of February. My classroom hours tend to be 9:30. Well, we say 9:15 arrival for 9:30 start. And the days run till about 4, 5 o'clock, depending on how big the group is, how involved we are with stuff and all the stuff that goes on in the classroom, because it's so much fun. And we meet almost once a week, but there are gaps because in the middle of it all, I like going on holiday, and I'm sure you do too. And we're also running the intense course that's going to be starting in October. That's quite an interesting one. The reason I did this 3-week course is that's how I managed to train in Scarborough, because I live near Portsmouth. I always say in Portsmouth because it's easy. I'm just outside in the country. So it meant that I could go up and I could spend, because I couldn't drive to Scarborough one day a week. Cost me a blooming fortune in petrol. God knows what time I'd get up in the morning. So the reason I do the 3-week intensive is because it's Monday to Friday, and we run the first week, which is clinical hypnosis, which is learning how to hypnotize people, arm assurance, eye locks, how to work with smokers, and then that is running Monday to Friday, starting the 5th of October for 5 days. Then the second week, which is the week after, we do the hypnotherapy, which is you learn my favorite, the IMR regression and all that sort of thing. And when you have the meltdown, by the way. then because you have meltdowns and you think, oh my, because I'm always nice when you first meet me, then I get nasty. So the first week's great. You think, oh, this is a doddle. Anyone can do this. And then the second week, I teach you how to facilitate change, pull triggers, inner child, gestalt. So I like to give you a couple of weeks break to get over me. So you have that couple of weeks break. And then the last week, great fun, Hypno NLP. Yes, it is neuro-linguistic programming, but I can't help myself. I've changed it. I use it in a different way to how you're taught it. And I love NLP. And Richard Bandler. Yes, I've met him, by the way. Best weekend of my life. So we run the 1 day a week one for people that are quite local to us and can come into classroom 1 day a week. And we also run the intensive. Now you can do it, the intensive, over a period. So you could do the clinical week in October. And then because we run our intensive courses over, we do it in May and in October. So you can do 2 weeks in a row and then split it, or you can split all of them, which is actually how I did it but then I'd already had a diploma. But how I did it with Wilf, I went up in the May and I did clinical hypnosis. Then I went back again in the October, did the hypnotherapy, and then the following May I went up and did the NLP. You know, you can actually make it fit with you. And if you've actually got to the end of this webinar, if you book using the code we're about to give you, you will get £100 off the diploma if you use the code webinar1. See? And I don't care if you say webinar 1 ONE or if you do webinar 1 and write number 1. But if you say, you've listened to the webinar, you'd like to book on our diploma course, we will give you £100 off. The actual total of the fee to train as a fully accredited diploma is £2,650. That includes all your manuals, all your scripts. It includes all your backup from me, or your exam, everything. The only extra cost you have, guess what? I'm going to mention my book again, is you need to buy my book and 2 books by Roy Hunter, The Art of Hypnosis and The Art of Hypnotherapy. But that is the only extra cost. And that would be valid for the one that's starting in 11 days' time, and also valid for the one that starts on the 5th of October if you are interested. And you can email me at Lorraine at hsoh.co.uk to book on the course. And I do hope that you've enjoyed our first live seminar. Have I got questions then, Shelley? Oh, if anyone does want to ask any questions before I leave, what do they do? Type in the chat box. But if you don't, within the next 3 minutes, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'm going to say I hope you did enjoy the first ever webinar that we've done. This will be live streaming, won't it, Shelley? It will be live streaming, and so you can watch it again if you want to. So doesn't appear to be any questions, are there? Right. I've just been told to keep talking because there's a delay. And if you do have any other questions that at a later date, you can just email me at Lorraine at hsoh.co.uk, and I usually get back to you within 24 hours of you contacting me. More often than not, I'm quicker than the 24 hours. And if you can also give me a call at Monday to Friday, my office. You can have a look on our websites with all our upcoming training. And the other thing that you can do is sign up for our ebook on our website, which then puts you on our mailing lists, and you get regular updates of what's going on in our little world. You get my blogs, and I do hope they are of value, my blogs. We send them out every month, and just general news. So this looks like it's it. So we are going to be signing off, and hopefully you've enjoyed our first live webinar. So thank you very much. I'm not going to do like they say on the internet when they'll go bye.